Welcome to the County Manager's Report. I'm Lloyd Higuera, and with me is Douglas County Manager Larry Werner. Welcome, Larry.
Thank you, Lloyd.
Nice to have you here. We're going to talk about the August 4th meeting of the Douglas County Board of Commissioners. It was a busy little meeting, and commissioners at that meeting did approve wholesale water rate structure for the town of Minden, Indian Hills, and Carson City, and those rates will be in effect from 2017 to 2022. And can you give us kind of an overview of what all this means?
Right. The rates were established by the town of Minden.
Okay.
And we buy water, Douglas County, buys the water from the town of Minden, and then we turn around and resell it to Indian Hills and Carson City, and then we use some for our customers on the East Valley water system. The town of Minden had gone through a rate study late last year and looked at what the costs were after a year's worth of operating, and felt that there had been some areas of the existing rate structure that weren't adequate. So they went through and did this rate study. It allocated personnel to the wholesale system and some other things, and we got basically presented the results of that rate study in February, and there were some questions that we as the purchasers had worked with the town of Minden to try to come to an understanding of what that was all about and actually negotiate some of the rates down. Bottom line is the town adopted the rates. They then are the rates that are going to be charged to the county. We as the county agreed, have an agreement with the town of Minden saying we'll pay the rates, and that's what we did as the first item on the 4th. And then the next two items are we turn around and sell that water to, as I said, to Carson and Indian Hills. So we develop an agreement between those two agencies to pass those rates on up to them. So that's kind of what occurred on that meeting. The two things left are the town, or Carson City and Indian Hills GID, to do their part and approve the agreement that they say they're going to pay them. So one step left. Yeah.
Okay, I was under a misconception then. Those rates were set by the town of Minden. I thought the Board of Commissioners had to give the final approval.
No, that's totally done by the town of Minden.
I see. Right. Okay, I'm glad you clarified that. And I don't know if you really had a chance to analyze those rates, but what does it mean to the end user, the person who turns on the tap? Is it going to be a major increase or a slight increase?
For us, it was about an 8-cent per 1,000-gallon increase. And so overall,
it doesn't sound like a huge impact.
It's not a huge issue, and we will analyze that in January when we take a look at all of our rate structures. Taking a look at what the costs have been and what these kinds of rates are, and what kind of water usage we've had, and depending on all of that, it'll certainly be a part of the mix of the evaluation. But at this stage, I don't know what that impact would be. But we're not automatically going to pass that on to the rate customers at this stage.
Okay, very good. Well, also, commissioners approved the application and appointment process and timeline to appoint new board members for the new East Fork Fire Protection District Board. So that's underway. Right.
Kind of laid out the process. East Fork has on their website an application for folks that are interested in applying for being a East Fork Fire Protection District Director, I guess they're called, or trustee. Okay. I forget what the name is. And there's an application process. It'll be vetted somewhat on area, residency requirement, those sorts of things. And then we'll set up interview panels to then make recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners. And they hope to get through that process and have the appointments made. I believe it was in October. So there's a chance then to work with the board before they take office in January and kind of work them through what happens. So
I see. So ultimately, the Board of Commissioners will be making the selections?
Correct.
I see. Okay.
Correct.
Very good. Okay, well, that's a process we'll be watching. Well, commissioners also at their meeting approved a contract extension for you.
Right.
That's right. Our interim county manager, Larry Werner. And so now you're going to be with us through December 31st, 2017.
That was the discussion, right? So assuming all goes well and everybody's happy. And part of the reason was, as we looked at the schedules for next year, the new board comes on in January. In February, the new legislative session starts. Budget is in the middle of being processed. So it seemed my current contract ended in March, and that was kind of right in the middle. So maybe it made more sense to extend it through that period to a certain period of time and then go there. And if there's issues there that the board wants to change direction, that's easy to do. There's no big buyouts or anything else. It's a 30-day notice saying thank you very much, but we're changing, and that's okay too. Yeah.
Well, I mean, are you ever going to retire, you think?
I think this will be it. Yes.
Do you think this is going to be it?
I think so. Yes.
Okay, very good. And because you like to travel a lot.
We do.
And it just does kind of put a little crimp in that.
It's created some interesting conversations at the home front.
I'll bet it has. Okay, well, Larry, we're glad to have you around as much time as you can give us.
Thank you.
Commissioners also approved a labor agreement between Douglas County and the Douglas County Employees Association. This was authorizing a one-time payment of $513.08 for each employee. So could you give us more detail on this?
Right, and it started with the idea that we simply don't have the money to do merit pay that typically you would see, that if somebody's kind of an exceptional performer is a little extra kick in their salary. We just don't have the ongoing revenues, but we did look at a process where if we had some ending fund balance and uncommitted funding that we could use to some extent, then we would make that available for year-end bonuses. And it was going to be a sliding scale, kind of, if you're average performer, a certain amount, and higher performer, X amount. What the association wanted to do was take that total block of money that was available for their group and actually just divide it evenly as opposed to a percentage point with their group, and so that everybody got the same amount. And that's why the dollars came out the way they did, the $513.08. So I thought that was actually pretty generous on the part of the bargaining association, because obviously for a low salaried employee it's a certain percentage, and then for a higher salaried employee it's a less of a percentage, but everybody's getting equal money. So
you don't see that too often, do you? In
no, usually
labor
it's
agreements.
No, usually it's a percent of your salary, and
right.
The more you make, even though it may be the same percentage, you're actually pocketing more money. So this was pretty unique, and I think it says a lot for the employee groups.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay, well, very good. So everybody gets a little extra check.
Yeah, kind of a Christmas thing. Assuming that when we pay it, I can't remember when we're going to pay it out now, but I think it's going to happen fairly rapidly.
It's getting
actually
close to Christmas already.
Yeah.
I can't even believe that. Also at that meeting, commissioners gave staff direction. This was regarding the qualifications for property owners to submit a master plan amendment request as part of the master plan update process. So is this something that the commissioners thought was needed? Or?
It's something. It came from Frank Gertige. Actually, he spoke at Citizens Comments probably about a month ago, that there was some confusion on what qualified for being included as part of the master plan update as just a simple request, or what was going to be required to go through a full-blown master plan amendment. And the idea is that if there are properties that were adjacent to already urban serviced areas that were logical expansions of those, then a simple request would be easy to look at, because you kind of know where infrastructure is and where the population is and that sort of thing. So that was kind of the idea of having the simplified process. There was some question as to, did the infrastructure need to be on the property, adjacent to the property, next to the property, within a certain distance? And I think the final determination is, if it's kind of adjacent to it, then go ahead and submit, and then that'll go to the county's consultant that's doing the update. It'll be evaluated. It still goes through the public process as far as the master plan update itself goes. I mean, it's not bypassing any of that. It's just, it's a lot less onerous on the applicant to do studies. If somebody was going out in the middle of nowhere and it would be a unit all by itself, then there's a concern that you're kind of leapfrogging infrastructure and development, and that's going to take a lot more work to evaluate, as opposed to something that's just a kind of a natural expansion.
So this is kind of expanding and clarifying the process.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good, because it's a master plan update, and you want to, get all the ducks in a row. I mean,
Exactly.
Okay. Well, also at the meeting, commissioners did hear an update from Congressman Mark Amodei on general federal issues. How are things in D.C., according to Mark? Mark has a unique perspective on everything.
He does. It's always pretty positive, and but I think he did a good job of kind of of at least kind of explaining some of the processes the county's immediately interested in, and that one being the lands bill and how it might progress forward. I'm not sure yet if it all depends, I guess, on whether or not things come out of committee, but there are enough days left that they'll be in session that this could happen. And then he basically talked about the schedule that Congress will actually be meeting based on the election dates and the holidays and that sort of thing. And I think he had mentioned something like 30 days between now and the end of the year that they'll
Sounds
actually be able to beat. So I think it's kind of a general update. I didn't hear anything really outstanding. I mean, as far as of major importance to the county, I think our biggest issue, like I say, is the lands bill. Otherwise, there's just kind of a general briefing of what's going on around the area.
Sure. Well, it's good he makes his time available to the
It is.
commissioners, yeah.
It is. It's nice to see him.
Commissioners also heard an update from Rod Hooper of the Northern Nevada Development Authority. And what exactly does the Northern Nevada Development Authority do? What is their function?
It was basically formed as a development authority that the counties came together initially and created this authority with the idea that there was somebody that could be the center point for businesses that might be interested in relocating to our area. By that I mean Lyons, Story, Douglas, Carson. It was the main focus at the time. And then also it was a organization that could go out to different trade shows and kind of try to sell the area as far as some economic vitality,
Sure.
economic development. So Rob's group basically pulls all that in. They put together a lot of the informational materials around the area, help people, guide them through the different governmental processes, tour them around the area. So they kind of become an arm of our economic development side of things. So, and Rob was giving us an update of what they've been doing in their activity and what's coming down.
Okay, very good. Well, commissioners also looked at some zoning issues. Commissioners did approve on the second reading, which of course means now it's official, zoning changes for the Sunridge area, for the Indian Hills area, and a project there. So that we talked about this in a previous.
Right. And this is the one that was off of Sunridge, and they were actually, there had been a request to do some timeshare rental, timeshare housing, that kind of stuff, and the applicant had withdrawn that. But the board proceeded to process the idea of taking one of the areas that the extra hole in the golf course. I think they had 19 actual golf course holes.
They didn't
holes.
read the rule book, I guess.
Yeah, yes. And they're taking one area and they're gonna allow further housing to take place there. So that one was pretty straightforward. I think it was straightforward. And then the other one was the one out near Gardnerville Ranchos off of Kimmerling. And that one was the elimination of some senior housing, some other activities, and try to convert that back into more single-family lots. And then the board heard and approved the second reading on that one as well.
Yeah, and that's the old Kit Carson project.
Right.
That's been kind of dormant for quite a few years. I think the economy took its toll on that one.
Yes.
But those two are second readings, so those projects are a total go.
Right, there you go. Now they'll have to go through the performance of the planning and actual specific plans, the development
Sure.
plans, that sort of thing, the typical permitting part of the process.
Okay. One more from the meeting. Commissioners gave their approval for a private unpaved road. That's on Flying Eagle Lane. That's off of Highway 88. That isn't a very usual request, is it?
No, this one, no, I think there was, gosh, I remember, I think there was a parceling of 2 parcels or something like that, oh gosh, I should have looked closer. But essentially it was a small, very small development off of some ranchland areas, and I think the way the county code basically reads that if you're serving more than one house, then it has to be a paved roadway and that kind of stuff. It didn't make sense here. It's traveling off through a private ranch, going through an area, so the concept of having that stay as a private road is perfectly fine. Yeah.
Well, it's still good we have some rural routes left.
They're getting to be fewer and fewer. Yes.
Yes. Okay, so that pretty much covers the meeting of the Douglas County Commissioners for August 4th. Do you have any kind of a preview of what's coming up, like on August 18th?
I do. Quickly, we can go through some pretty typical stuff on the consent calendar, a lot of the reporting that we do on a regular basis financially and public guardian, that sort of thing. There is one issue. We do have a couple of grants that are coming into our Emergency Management Center. our East Fork Fire is under contract to the county to provide emergency management. They applied for some grants for some equipment and stuff, and those were approved.
Oh, great.
So that money will be coming in, so it's grant acceptance. On the Douglas County Liquor Board, Walmart got in trouble with serving alcohol to minors, so that issue is going to be coming up before the board.
Serving or selling?
Selling, I guess, yeah, not serving, good point. So, and they got into the compliance check they did 2 of them within 30 days, so that brings them to a point where they have to appear before the board, and the board will impose some sanctions on it. The other thing is in the district court, the China Springs area, there is a kind of the description in the, I guess the agreement that creates China Springs was modified a couple years ago when there was the 10th Judicial District added to the state of Nevada. Well, they added an 11th district, and so we were modified the contract a couple meetings ago to include the 11th district. But we found out there was a clerical error, and we had dropped the 10th district. So this is just coming back, cleaning that one up.
Getting that squared away.
Yes, yes. The other two that are probably of interest is there's a resolution being requested by the Secretary of State to resolve the issue of how the Douglas County Sewer Improvement District directors are elected. As you may recall, several months ago was an item before the board.
Right.
And it was to begin the process to dissolve the district, but there was a question about whether or not who was right on how the districts were elected.
So the state's weighing in now.
The state's weighing in now, so that'll be on just as a simple resolution requesting their opinion.
Okay.
And then I'll be bringing on a contract to talk about the idea of doing some kind of a fee-based stormwater management program. So we kind of got direction at the last meeting, and I want to bring that forward to see if this is kind of what the board wants to do. So
I see.
a lot more to come on that one if it goes forward.
Well, there'll be a lot of interest in that one,
Yes, I think so.
particularly in Johnson Lane.
Yes, yes. And I think those are the main ones. We've got.
Okay. Well, it sounds like a pretty power-packed agenda.
It could be, yes.
There's a lot there. Well, Larry, I sure want to thank you for sharing all the information here on the County Manager's Report. Larry Werner, our County Manager. I'm Lloyd Higuera, and we'll see you next time right here on the County Manager's Report.